So, hallo alle zusammen. We are live. Welcome to our live student case study. I'm just going to make sure everything is working all right, but we're live on YouTube. So if you can hear and see me, please let me know in the chat. As this is live, we're going to interact with you guys today in the chat and also take some of your questions. Also, let me know where you are tuning in from. So we have people joining from all over the world, and I would love to hear in the chat where you are currently based in. And for those who don't know me, I'm Salome, a native German teacher from close to Frankfurt and the creator of the German Fluency Academy. I help people go from zero knowledge to being confident and conversational in German using my fluency method. And this helps them ultimately navigate life in Germany, connect with locals, find better job opportunities. And really, for me, it's more about also feeling at home, right? So today I have the pleasure of speaking with one of my students, Matthew, who has started learning German with us in May 2024. And at the time, he basically had zero knowledge of the language. And fast forward to today, he's living in Germany, speaking German on a daily and even attending language meetups, which definitely felt intimidating at first. And we'll share more about that in a second. And yeah, we'll be diving into his journey. So feel free to ask any questions in the chat. For either me or Matthew in regards to learning German and making progress. And yeah, if you've been looking for inspiration on how to gain confidence in German and finally start having those conversations, you're in the right place. I see Michelle is here. Hello, Michelle from Pennsylvania. Hallo, Ellen aus England. Hallo, Michael. Sehr schön. Wunderbar. So, yeah, as I've mentioned, my hope for today's conversation is that it will motivate you to either start learning German or help you get back on track or keep on going if you have been feeling stuck. So let's get started and bring Matthew into the conversation. So, to stage. Wunderbar, das funktioniert auch. Hallo und herzlich willkommen. Welcome, Matthew. I'm so excited to have you here today. Obviously, I know who you are, but for those who don't know who you are, can you introduce yourself a little bit and share with us why you started learning German?
Yes, of course. Thank you for having me.
Oh, einen Augenblick, ich kann dich nicht hören. Irgendwas stimmt nicht ganz mit dem Mikrofon. Let's see. Gerade eben hat es noch funktioniert. So this is also the ultimate proof that this is live today. So technical hiccups here and there are part of the game. I still can't hear you though. Ich muss mal kurz schauen, ob es an mir liegt.
Can you hear me? Let me see if this works.
Ich kann dich immer noch nicht hören. Edit Mic Settings, nee. Das ist ein bisschen merkwürdig. Könnt ihr mir in der Chatbox sagen, ob ihr mich hören könnt oder ob ihr Matthew hören könnt? Are you able to hear Matthew? Oh, you heard him? Maybe that's because of my earplugs then. Vielen Dank, Michelle, für dein Feedback. Dann liegt es vielleicht an meinen Kopfhörern. Then maybe it's the problem with my headphones. So, probieren wir es jetzt noch einmal.
Testing.
Oh, jetzt höre ich dich. Okay, alles gut. Das war wohl mein Fehler denn. Also, vielen Dank, Michelle und Jamie, für euer Feedback. Ich höre Matthew jetzt. Das war ein Problem mit meinen Kopfhörern. There was an issue with my headphones. So, anyways, please introduce yourself, Matthew, and share with us why you started learning German.
Alles gut. Dankeschön, Salome. Well, yeah, thank you for this opportunity. It's been a intensive 8 months, so it's been all encompassing. So, yeah, my name is Matthew. I come from New Zealand. I moved to Germany 6 months ago. I'm 27 years old. And yeah, this is my first attempt at learning a second language. In 2023, I first visited Germany. So I visited Berlin. It was my first time in Europe, and I just was amazed by all these bilingual people I was meeting, and German was obviously the main language, and I'd mainly visited English-speaking countries, or other countries where English was kind of the predominant language, and I just thought everyone was amazing, and I wanted to be an amazing person as well, as we all do, right? So I was very inspired to want to learn a second language, and because my dad lives in Germany, he lives in Berlin. I had the opportunity to move with him, or move in with him, and so I decided to make part of that journey, um, giving German a really good effort to learn.
Right, right. So you've mentioned also in our community that it's kind of like a thing for people from New Zealand, right, to take something like this gap year or to travel for a year. Is that what you're basically currently doing in Germany?
Yeah, exactly. It's funny because when I do talk to Germans, they all ask me why I'm in Germany. Isn't New Zealand such a beautiful country, right? And that's true. But I think, of course, New Zealand is a really long way from the rest of the world, and so many young Kiwis like myself take the opportunity to move to Europe, which is
Mhm.
one of the best places to be, to do lots of travel and visit many countries, without breaking the budget, which would be the case if you were traveling to Europe every year from
Right.
New Zealand. So yeah, I actually do have many friends who have also made the move to Europe, predominantly in the UK. But yeah,
Right.
it's somewhat of a rite of passage for many New Zealanders to experience the world and then come back home a little bit later.
Yeah, that's really amazing. That's also a great opportunity then to pick up a new language. And I would love to, go back memory lane a little bit and rewind a little bit to that point where you decided to start learning German. And I'm curious to know, before joining the German Fluency Academy, what were kind of like your biggest struggles with learning German, or where were you at basically with trying to start this language learning journey?
Yes, the biggest struggles were procrastination, fear of the unknown to start with. I came
Mhm.
back from Germany, full of my first time for holiday, and was filled with inspiration. Duolingo was downloaded, but quickly the 10 minutes of Duolingo per day fell off, as the realities of life, of working full time. I had a part-time job as well, social life, hobbies.
Mhm.
I didn't really capitalize on that inspiration initially, but I think it was part of not knowing where to start, right?
Yeah.
And I think I had in my once I moved to Germany, or once I made plans to go, I would ramp it up. But even then, when I left my job finished up and I had a bit of time, there was definitely a few weeks, maybe even a month of procrastination, as it can be feel quite overwhelming to know where to even start, or can you do it by yourself? Do you need to pay for courses? I had no experience with this previously, so it
Yeah.
was lucky that I found your lesson, your introductory lesson, and that was sort of what put me on the pathway to join the German Fluency Academy, and gave me a really great start into learning German.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I think a lot of people actually feel the same way in the beginning. They start with Duolingo and then they start like researching about how to go about learning German, especially as a beginner, and then you find all these informations out there. But then the problem really is like, okay, where should you even start as a beginner? What makes sense? Are you doing it the right way? And a lot of times people get stuck right there in the beginning because they don't really know where to get started, and then that's where also the procrastination doesn't really help, because you're just like analyzing how to even get started, which then ends up in never really getting started, right? So it's a whole
Mhm.
cycle there. um, um, and I'm curious to know also, like, after you've moved to Germany, you had a little bit of like foundation already in the language through like learning with the German Fluency Academy, and you started becoming a little bit more comfortable using German, let's say in day-to-day interactions, right? Our first phase inside the academy is about navigating daily life, having those small daily interactions. How did you push through that discomfort in the beginning of like really speaking to people, especially in your first meetup? Because you basically went right forward, right? And it wasn't the let's say most pleasant first experience, which is totally normal, but you've done a really great job in pushing through that discomfort, and I would love to share more about that.
Yeah, well, that was, I think one of the great parts of the German Fluency Academy is, you break down the kind of process of learning a language. And I think as part of that, your advice around getting out there and starting to speak with people, I think probably a lot earlier than most people would probably, do themselves. So I remember rocking up to my first meetup, and I was, on reflection, I was sort of at that A1, A2 level. I was just kind of getting um, comfortable with German, and I maybe hadn't asked these questions before. But I remember feeling really good because I got to, use my where do you come from, and what's your name, and how old are you,
Yeah.
and why are you in Germany. And it was going really well. And then quickly I met some people who were much more advanced than me in German, and I really, I think I told the story that I couldn't understand really anything. And if you can't
Yeah.
understand, you can't really communicate either. And I guess I quickly felt invisible in that conversation,
Mhm.
and also, feelings of embarrassment and awkwardness, I guess.
Mhm.
But I guess the part that's helped me in that circumstance, but definitely for ongoing language meetups, is you kind of have to brace yourself for those feelings.
Yeah.
Since then I've been to many, many more language meetups, and I still feel nervous every time, and I still feel a bit of anxiety, and it's a bit awkward to start. But I think it's bracing yourself that those emotions are normal. But
Yeah.
turning up uh, is two-thirds of success, as they say. And I try not to judge myself on how good I speak German, but how much effort I do
Yeah.
to actually to trying.
Right. And I really love that mindset change that you also shared in our community about, what a privilege it actually is to having like a front row seat to that conversation, right? And being able to soak
Mhm,
everything up, which a lot of people might not have the opportunity to do. So I really love that shift from like, feeling a little bit overwhelmed and intimidated by that conversation too quickly, but realizing, oh, this is actually an opportunity for me to immerse myself even more, even though I don't understand 100% of the conversation. I still get to train my listening
mhm,
skills, kind of meet new people, and just get more comfortable with this discomfort, which ultimately also helps you with future or helped you with future meetups and language exchanges and things like that, right? So that's a really awesome growth that you made there in
mhm,
that moment, and also in like the other language meetups you've done afterwards. um,
mhm.
can you share like a moment when you realized, well, I'm actually speaking German now, or did that kind of like came in gradually?
It definitely comes in gradually, which I think is another interesting insight from the journey. It doesn't just one day you think, wow, now I'm, A2, or
Yeah.
well, I'm B1 now. It's very much a slow, you kind of reflect over months, and you see the progress. But yeah, I've definitely had those moments recently, and I think initially it was with reading and texting my friends.
Hmm.
I have some great German speaking friends, and I used to text them, and then they would reply, and I've quick, but at the beginning I would have to translate a lot of the words
Yeah.
or sentences, and now I usually can understand it, like we're just texting in English back and forth, and that feels really good. And then most recently, I was on the train with a German speaking friend of mine, and we just she's very kindly sometimes practices German with me, and then we just talked about sort of the night's events in German on the train, and it kind of felt like we were in a public setting. I was speaking German in Germany on the U-Bahn,
Yeah.
and I think that was that felt really good and really nice, and especially because of course she was a native speaker, so she could really um, make the conversation a bit more in depth. But because I understood, because I had good understanding of what she
Yeah.
was saying, I could appropriately answer in the German that I do know. So that was a
Yeah.
really good feeling.
That's pretty amazing. And yeah, those conversations are really important also to kind of acknowledge the progress that you have made, because as you've mentioned, like sometimes it comes in gradually, and then we don't really, I feel like sometimes we forget where we actually started and don't take enough appreciation for those small wins. And then it can quickly become a very frustrating journey if we don't do that, because we're just feeling like, oh, we're not making any progress. But actually, if you look back and acknowledge all of these small wins and the conversation you're having with your friend on the train, it feels really good. So well done,
Yeah.
Matthew, so far. And if you're
Mhm.
just tuning in, herzlich willkommen. For those who are just joining our live stream, I'm here with my student Matthew, who started learning German from scratch last year in May, and he's now living in Germany, speaking daily and even attending language meetups that once felt intimidating. And he's here today to share his journey and ultimately inspire you and motivate you in your own German language learning journey. And if you also want to gain confidence in your German skills, you are invited to go to speakfluentgerman.com/apply. This is also where I met Matthew the first time, to see if you qualify for a discovery call, and then we'll evaluate if this is the right fit for you and your goals. And if you do have any questions right now for me and Matthew, do drop them in the chat in regards to learning German, his journey so far. And that's why we are here today, to answer all of your questions about learning German, and then ultimately also inspire you to either get started or keep on going. So one question a lot of people always ask is, what strategies helped you, as someone who is a bit more advanced now, improve your speaking skills the most? What do you feel like was the most helpful or crucial in your journey so far?
Yeah, that's a good question. Um, I think outside of, the lessons are kind of the lessons in the course are sort of the building blocks of kind of getting your foot in the door. But in terms of outside of that, I really found, um, as a beginner, especially reading was a really helpful um, uh, activity to do as something that's kind of possible for a beginner in terms of finding those graded readers that are
Mhm.
simplified for your level and to really help you learn vocab in kind of a fun way. Flashcards are necessary, but they can get a bit boring after a while. But reading, you learn them in context. And I often found I would read some stories, and then when I
Mhm.
was having my meetups or conversations, suddenly that word would pop into my head, and I would I would use it, or especially if I'd read it, that day. So basically, my German vocab was based on what I'd been reading that morning. But that was also a nice feeling when that came up. Um, Otherwise, I think it is, having to put yourself in speaking situations as much as possible. I definitely have felt it's improved and accelerated my learning. And I think that's as simple as if you're in Germany and you have interactions, always starting with German, no matter how uncomfortable or awkward you think it's
Yeah.
going to get. But also seeking out those exchanges. There's so many on platforms like Meetup app, and I know that in Berlin in particular, there's so many out there. And it's just finding that motivation to go. I never want to go, really. There's always part of me that would rather stay home and watch some English series on Netflix. But I kind of go no matter how I feel, because I have found it's worked for me really well, and I have so much faith in the advice of you, Zalame, and all other bilingual people that is the way that you have to do it. And the more you go, the quicker you will improve.
Yeah, for sure. So that has definitely worked wonders for my own language skills as well, for the foreign languages that I've learned. Really immersing yourself and speaking as much as possible from day one, which basically is what I also teach in the academy. Even though you might not have the skills to have a full on conversation yet, but those small interactions on a daily basis, or those even basic conversations, will add up over time, and also contribute to your confidence in speaking more. So it's definitely important to do this. And your consistency, I mean, it speaks for itself. So Matthew, at this point, I also wanted to share a short snippet of one of your last milestone recordings. For those who don't know, the German Fluency Academy is really focused on like practical spoken German, which means that at the end of the beginners program, we don't actually have an exam or a test, but rather you need to submit a recording with a native speaker of 10 minutes. And Matthew actually went beyond that. I think the recording is in total like 30 minutes. So we'll just hear a snippet of that together. To show a little bit how your German sounds, or how your German sounded back in December last year.
Vielen
Oh, wait. Oh, sorry, there we
für deine Zeit. Heute sprechen wir miteinander für mindestens 10 Minuten auf Deutsch natürlich. Ein bisschen Englisch, vielleicht nein. Kein Englisch. Bist du bereit?
Ich bin bereit.
Okay, Miriam, was hast du heute gemacht?
Heute habe ich mit meiner Oma gefrühstückt
Mhm.
und mit meiner Nichte habe ich viel gesprochen und ein bisschen gespielt.
Gespielt.
Was hast du gespielt?
Ja. Was hast du gespielt?
Meine Nichte hat einen großen Zoo aus vielen Spielzeugen und Tieren aufgebaut. Also haben wir mit den Zootieren gespielt.
Okay, sehr gut. Was hast du Frühstück gegessen?
Ich habe Knäckebrot mit Frischkäse und Käse gegessen und Kaffee getrunken. Was hast du heute gefrühstückt?
Hier Käse, ja. Frühstück, ich habe Toast mit Erdnussbutter und Naturjoghurt gegessen und ich habe 3 Tassen Kaffee getrunken.
3 Tassen Kaffee?
Ja.
Das kann nicht gesund sein.
So we can argue about that, whether that's healthy or not, ob das gesund ist oder nicht. Aber well done, Matthew. So as I've mentioned, this recording was from last December, basically 6 months into your learning journey so far. How does that feel to you to hear yourself speak in German and to kind of revisit that milestone?
I think, oh man, I could do so much better now, but but no, it's interesting because I think in the moment, of course, you feel like you're going all right, and sometimes when you listen back to it, you're like, oh, I sound a bit broken or a bit slow, but yeah, when you reflect on where I was in May last year, right, that is, I'm sure Matt back then would have watched that video and been proud of my efforts and my questions and describing my breakfast. I'm sure he wouldn't have known what was being said. He probably wouldn't have known it was breakfast that we were talking about. So
Right.
yeah, it is. So yeah, right now I'm thinking, oh, I could do better, but I know back then I would have been proud of my progress.
For sure. And shout out to Miriam for doing that interview or that conversation with you. I think I told you, I realized that she's actually from the same hometown as me, which is what a coincidence, really, right? Because she's also
Yes.
based or was living in New Zealand and then moved back to Germany, and somehow it's just really funny how life works sometimes. We've got a question from Jamie, I would like to pop on the screen real quick for us to kind of dive in. So Jamie asked, Matthew, how do you navigate the various dialects? It is an area I really struggle with. I listen for Hochdeutsch, and when I can't recognize what is being said, I tend to panic and lose everything. Do you have any advice or tips for that? I mean, in Berlin, I think the dialect is not too heavy. I mean, there is Berlin dialect, for sure, but it's, let's say, compared to the South, I would say it's not as heavy. How was your experience with that so far?
Yeah, I can't say I've had too much experience with dialects, but potentially there's also a case that they may be speaking a dialect that I don't necessarily pick up too
And you think
quickly.
it's normal?
Yeah, so but I think I definitely maybe can understand the when you don't recognize what's being said and panic and lose everything. I can definitely relate quite strongly with that feeling, even with Hochdeutsch.
Mhm.
And I think, yeah, it's again, I guess I come back to it. My sort of mantra has been somewhat bracing myself for these moments, and kind of anticipating them, and then
Mhm.
taking a moment to breathe and try to get back to thinking what you want to say, what question you want to ask to clarify things. Because at the end of the day, it's just a small interaction with someone you may not know very well. So I try not to take it too seriously, and try use it as much as I can as a learning experience. Even if they gave me a kind of like, oh, you're wasting my time look.
Mhm.
I try to calm my mind and put some German together. And I often find with spontaneous conversations on the street, I can pick up just one word, or sometimes I just pick up one word, and that's enough to understand what needs to be my next move or my next interaction.
Mhm.
So knowing that you really don't have to understand everything that's being said in a sentence, if you just pick up one word, it can you can reply appropriately, or appropriately do the next action. So that's how I try to deal with that situation. But if anyone
Yeah.
knows the if anyone has other answers, I'm definitely open.
Yeah, no, for sure. So I think, to be fair, also for German native speakers who come from different regions, it can be difficult to understand various dialects. So, for example, I'm from like the Frankfurt region, right? We speak Hessian, which is not too heavy of a dialect. I would say it's pretty close to actually high standard German, especially around Frankfurt. So for me, when I go to the south, like the Swabian or Bavarian area, for example, I need to even tune my ear sometimes into like the dialect or even different vocabulary that they are using. And sometimes it takes me 2 to 3 days to really get used to it, and to be able to understand every single word, especially sometimes they would use completely different vocab as well, right? So, Jamie, you're not alone in this. Even native speakers sometimes struggle with like understanding people from other regions, and it takes some time to kind of tune your ear into that. What I found really amazing, though, if you immerse yourself in certain dialects, because maybe you have family connections in those areas or friends in those areas, people start adapting to that dialect. So I have a student who's living in the north of Bavaria, and when I speak to her, she actually speaks more Bavarian than high standard German, which is really interesting because normally you would learn high standard German, in the classroom, but because she lives and also works there, she picked up all of the slang words and dialects, and it's really interesting to just see that how that develops. So we've just listened to your last milestone of the beginners program from December, but I've actually got a second example from just last month, Matthew, which I would like to share. A presentation you've submitted in our B1 course, actually, which is also part of the academy. And this time you were talking about your dreams, ambitions, and future plans. So I would love to have a short look or quick look into that as well.
Hey, los geht's, auf geht's.
Oh.
Mein Traum ist es, einen Master in Deutschland zu machen. Vorher habe ich meinen Bachelor abgeschlossen. Das Fach war Physiotherapie und Gesundheitswissenschaften. Deshalb glaube ich, dass ich einen Master in öffentlicher Gesundheit machen kann. Warum? Warum würde ich gern einen Master machen? Punkt 1, Arbeit, weil ich einen Job im Bereich Gesundheit oder Fitness gern hätte, aber nicht als Physiotherapeut arbeiten möchte. Nächster Punkt, Deutsch lernen, weil ich natürlich Deutsch lerne, würde ich gern in Deutschland leben und meine Deutschkenntnisse verbessern.
I think you're on mute, gentlemen.
Oh yeah, I was just saying, I think these two videos that we've heard just now are maybe like 2 months apart from each other, something like that, and you can already tell like you were able to talk about more complex topics and use various vocabulary. How does that feel to you to kind of see that difference within just a couple of months?
Yeah, it's very exciting. It's awesome when you do notice progress, and yeah, there's plenty of words in there that you kind of, I think sometimes you learn things on a lag as well. You learn this word in December, but it's not kind of takes the time to sink in, and then you can feel like you can start using it in,
Yeah.
February or later. So yeah, it's awesome to see. But yeah, there's so many levels to language learning as well. And when I listen, I think, oh, like my good pronunciation and my accent, I can't wait to also improve that in the future as well.
Yeah, but I think your accent is already pretty good. You're very easy to understand. Um, and I was able to, understand everything that you've said. And it's also with our weekly activities inside the community that we do. You're very hardworking on those. You're submitting those every single week, whether that's a voice recording or a video recording. And something that I've really noticed is that your pronunciation has really become very clear. So it's very easy to understand. Obviously, it's like not on a 100% native level, but it's easy to understand what you're saying, which is not always the case with German learners if you're not paying attention to your pronunciation. And yeah, if you who's viewing right now wants to achieve the same level of conversational skills in German as Matthew, then you are invited to the next step. You can head over to speakfluentgerman.com/apply. I'll put the link also on the screen to submit your application and see if you qualify for a discovery call. This could be your opportunity to join us inside the academy and start making real progress in your German language learning journey, just as Matthew has done. And speaking of the community as well, what role did consistency and the community support, the activities play in your success?
Yeah, yeah, a big part, I think. I think when you begin learning a language, it's not a sprint as I maybe hoped for at the start. It's definitely a marathon. That cliche I can say is definitely true. And I
Yeah.
think what's really helped being part of the German Fluency Academy is getting that feedback and that um, positive reinforcement that you are getting better and you are improving, because it's not always easy to see it in yourself. And I think that would be a really real challenge when you're learning by yourself or self-study. Not impossible, but it's really great to get some feedback from your teacher and your peers as well. And that consistency as well with the weekly challenges, I think, is a real game changer. And that I think getting really good feedback on your pronunciation is probably really difficult. You can kind of learn vocab and correct grammar and phrases, but
Yeah.
lots of people tend not to overcorrect you when you pronounce things wrong, which is nice because sometimes it can really kill the flow of the conversation. But I've definitely realized pronunciation is kind of the bedrock of speaking a language really well. And sometimes I think I'm speaking it well, or and then I send in some clips and I get some really good feedback around just small ways I can adjust words that I've been saying like kind of just a little bit wrong for a while, and
Mm.
that really makes me feel good that I can pick up those mistakes early, because I know if I get it right, it's gonna really help me in the future.
Yeah. Yeah, I think learning it right from the beginning is really important in terms of your confidence and your conversational skills as well, because a lot of times when you don't pay attention to pronunciation, you're learning all these words and phrases, and then you go out thinking that you've got it all, and then you're able to converse with people, and then you start trying and people don't understand you and maybe get a bit impatient as well when it's like, a stressful situation. And that can really be very very frustrating experience, and like worst case scenario is stop the overall like learning part journey as well. um, you mentioned in our community recently that you've navigated a trip with your family and friends as well. How did your German or knowing German helped in that case or in those situations?
Yeah, I think knowing some German really makes traveling in Germany a lot more smooth. Yeah, of course, if you're here for holiday, it's not the end of the world, but especially someone who's living here, it's really nice to have German. for example, maybe I've got a friendly face. People tend to ask me questions in German about directions or if this is the correct train. So it's nice that even though I don't know, I can tell them ich weiß nicht.
Yeah.
Or occasionally when I do know, or even I think I've had situations where a guy ran onto the train and asked if it was the 7 train and it was actually the 5, and I could quickly ascertain that and tell him that he was on the wrong train. Whereas I
Yeah.
reflect back when I was first learning, when he said "fünf," I wouldn't have known he was meaning 5. So small things like that, small big wins. But otherwise, I think it makes just really easy interactions at, for example, the hotel or the restaurants. And I think you do get a bit of a warmer, or you feel a bit more connected with the staff and the people you're connecting with when you speak German, even if it's as simple as when does the breakfast start and how much does it cost, and those were sort of the interactions I was having on holiday. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. We also have a comment here from Honana who says, "Very good job, Matthew. I've been living here in Deutschland for 2 years and I'm still struggling, but I'm learning new skills every day." And I think everybody goes through the same when it comes to language learning. There isn't an end really, or like a destination where you're like, okay, now I'm done, now I'm fluent in the language. Even like C1, C2 learners, which is ultimately the highest level of proficiency that you can get in a language, still continue to learn and to improve their language skills. So there isn't really like a point in your journey where you're like, okay, now I'm done. There is always more to learn and always new things to explore for sure. Yeah, so I know we're almost up with the time, Matthews. Thank you so much for hanging in there. I do have a couple quick more questions for you, for someone who struggles with the fear of making mistakes, especially when speaking in German, or especially like when it comes to feeling maybe, oh, I might sound stupid, or I might make a fool out of myself. Did you feel something like that in the beginning when like speaking in German, and how did you overcome that?
Yeah, this is the big problem, and definitely I think when I talk with other German learners, they all feel the same, and I definitely feel like that on a daily basis. And yeah, I guess I come back to, it's really your mindset, right? And again, it's a bit of a cliche, but I do try to think about reframing my thoughts and bracing myself, because the emotions and the feelings don't go away. Unfortunately, I still feel, especially when I'm talking to native speakers, I notice that I straight away my confidence goes down. I start to jumble up sentences I think I know, or I pronounce a word and they ask me it, and then I say it again, and then they're like, "Oh, you mean this word?" And I'm thinking that's what I said, but but
Oh,
I think
I hear you on that.
but I think when that happens, I really try to laugh now and laugh at the situation, like, and not take it too seriously. But I think it's reframing it, that it's going to take you 1,000, maybe let's make it 1,000,000 mistakes until you speak really, really good German. So the quicker you can make those mistakes, the better you'll get. And I think when I think like that, it makes me feel more proud of myself that I made 10 mistakes rather than angry
Yeah.
or shameful, because I've definitely felt those as well. But unfortunately, I think you have to try. And yeah, it's really nice now when I go to these meetups and I see people who maybe were at where I was, more at that sort of really beginning level, and I see them slowly constructing sentences. In my mind, I'm thinking like, wow, you're so awesome, you're so brave, like coming here and like really giving it a go, even though you're just at the beginning, which is the hardest time. So it only gets easier, I think, as
Yeah.
you get better. Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I usually say as well. Like after A2 at the B levels, it's really where the fun starts. Right. In the beginning, it can
Totally.
be struggling. And so it's really important to have a strong support system and to have some sort of structure as well in the beginning. And yeah, thank you, Matthew, for sharing all of your valuable tips and for sharing your experience and journey with learning German so far. Last but not least, I have one more question, which is, would you recommend the German Fluency Academy, and if so, why?
Yes, I would definitely recommend the German Fluency Academy. Um, the best thing about it is it gives you the building blocks, or the roadmap, should I say, for how to learn a language, not just German really. It lays out how you could learn any language really, in terms of what you need to be doing, the milestones that you need to meet. But of course, it's got all the grammar and vocabulary that you need for everyday German interactions. And I think if you follow that recipe that the German Fluency Academy is, and you commit yourself and you take it into your own hands, it's just a recipe that if you follow it, you will get good at German. So that's why I would definitely recommend it.
Thank you so much, Matthew, for your kind words. And yeah, if you are looking to gain confidence and speak German just like Matthew does now more comfortably in daily life, Matthew's story is a great example of what's possible. And if you want to see if the German Fluency Academy can help you achieve your goals, you can head over to speakfluentgerman.com/apply to book a discovery call with me. And if you to see also if this would be a good fit for you and your goals. And thank you again, Matthew, for sharing your journey with us today. Vielen, vielen Dank für alle deine tollen Tipps und Ratschläge. Your story that will definitely inspire many others who are on the same path. And to everyone watching, thank you for being here. And thank you for tuning in, asking your questions, and joining us live today. In diesem Sinne wünsche ich euch allen einen schönen Abend und bis zum nächsten Mal. Vielen Dank, Matthew. Macht's gut, Leute. Tschüss.
Tschüss.